उनके परिवार से लगातार संपर्क बनाए हुए हैं इस मसले पे, और साथ ही साथ वहाँ जो
external affairs of direct attack on the Yunus regime given the atrocities against minorities, and the numbers being put out by the MEA, 2,900 incidents of violence against the minority community, not just land grab, demolitions and even killings have been documented as per Randeep Jaiswal of the MEA since the Yunus regime took over. I'm joined by my colleague Akanksha Swaroop on the broadcast. So Akanksha, a strong message coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs against the Yunus government as the Islamist threat continues across Bangladesh.
Absolutely. More importantly, Ayushman, India has taken a very stern stance. They have said that such kind of unremitting hostilities against whether it is Hindus, Christians, Buddhists will not be tolerated, and more importantly the security and the law and order is in fact in the hands of the Yunus regime in Bangladesh. And what's even shocking is the latest figure that has been shared by the Honorable Spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs, Shri Randeep Jaiswal, is 2,900 minorities have been killed in all since the July uprising. Remember, just as of March 2025, the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar had endorsed a figure of roughly over 2,400 minorities that had died. But so far, in the latest figure, we can see there's been a sharp increase of 500, because today the figures that have been put out by the Ministry of External Affairs says 2,900. You're looking at roughly an increase of 500 killings that have happened in just the last few days, ever since violence erupted again, targeting Hindus particularly, of course the Christians and the Buddhists as well. We've in fact seen how Hindu villages have continued burning. After the killing of Dipu Chandra Das, just yesterday we saw how a second Hindu had been killed. And so right now, even say the Buddhist, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian Council are still trying to get their estimates because of the kind of mob violence that is plaguing and gripping Bangladesh, the kind of fear that is gripping the country. It is in fact difficult to get a ground zero estimate. But if the Indian Ministry of External Affairs is currently putting out this figure of 2,900, you can only expect the numbers to go forward if the Yunus regime does not crack down on this kind of rampant, say, radical jihadist sort of violence that is playing out in Bangladesh at the moment. But what's shocking is that just in the last couple of weeks, or say in a matter of 10 days after Usman Hadi's killing, we are seeing that there's been a sharp increase in minority killings, and you can be rest assured that majority of them are going to be Hindus. Many of them have been mob lynched. From what we are learning through our sources there in Bangladesh, through journalists, women are being raped, men are being mob lynched, they are being burnt alive. So we'll have to wait and watch for official figures to in fact come out. But if the Ministry of External Affairs is putting out this official figure that 2,900 people have been killed as of December end 2025, you can only expect the number to go up. This as the Yunus regime sits and looks on like a mute spectator. Absolutely shocking. India, of course, has let diplomacy take its own course. We've summoned the Bangladesh High Commissioner a second time already in the days gone by. We've seen that, in fact, Dimash was also issued. And that's been, in fact, also playing out in a tit-for-tat diplomacy of sorts. We've seen Dhaka also do the same. But they have a lot of answering to do. Not only there's been a violation of the Geneva Conventions because the diplomatic missions were attacked, we've seen how the media houses have been burnt down, but as far as the security of the minorities is concerned, whether that is Hindus, whether that is Christians or Buddhists, CNN News 18 has been flagging off these concerns for a while. In fact, just on Christmas Eve, there was a Molotov cocktail explosion in front of a church in Dhaka. So a lot of answering to be done by the Yunus regime. There is sort of a semi-pressure building up from the US regime, but so far no voices coming in from either the US President or his core team, which is the US Vice President J.D. Vance or the Secretary of State Marco Rubio. We'll have to see what the Yunus regime is going to do. Interestingly, again, there's also been a response which has come in from the spokesperson on Tariq Rahman's return. Khaleda Zia's son, remember, he has returned after an exile of nearly 18 years in the UK, and so India has supported his return by saying that India supports the need for free, fair and inclusive elections in Bangladesh. And so we'll have to see if there's going to be any counter response coming in from Dhaka. Ayushman.
Right. And at the same time, Akanksha, the MEA also flagging the kind of cover fire that's coming in from the Yunus regime, saying that these killings cannot be ignored by calling it a political killing or media exaggeration. We've seen when it comes to the case of Amrit Mandal, how the police over there has said that he was a known criminal and this was a scuffle during an extortion bid. Even with Deepu Das's case, they said that his colleagues in his factory were trying to force him to quit his job, and there's no communal angle. So there seems to be this overdrive from the Yunus regime to play down the communal angle, even though on the face of it, prima facie, there's no doubt about it, these are targeted communal killings.
That's a very good observation, Ayushman, because as you rightly highlighted, the spokesperson has talked about how there is media exaggeration happening. They are being labeled as political killing. In fact, India has sent one strong, stern message, short and crisp, that they demand justice for all of these killings. Having said that, when the Indian spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs is going on to highlight that there is media exaggeration taking place, you can imagine the kind of misinformation that is taking place at the moment we are seeing. And in fact, reports are also indicating that the Pakistan ISI is already operating several of these media cells in Bangladesh. In fact, it's an open secret that ISI is operating a cell out of the Dhaka High Commission of Pakistan over there.
Akanksha, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm joined by Deepak Vora, former ambassador on the broadcast. Thank you, Mr. Vora, for joining us. How do you see this reaction coming in from the MEA and escalation of the language against Bangladesh, putting out that number, 2,900 incidents of violence against minorities in the country ever since the Yunus regime took over?
Yeah, thank you very much. Always a pleasure to be with you. What happens in cases like this, it's a gradual escalation, but it's in 4 stages. And let me tell you what they are. First is diplomatic pressure. We call in their High Commissioner. We let him have it. We tell him our concerns. We hope he'll convey it to his government, but it is quite clear that the High Commissioner here, the Bangladesh High Commissioner here, has no clout with his home government. Then we go directly. We say this is unacceptable to us. Now, then when that happens and we escalate the diplomatic pressure, which is what we are now doing, our spokesman rejects all the nonsense that these fellows are talking. The Bangladesh government is putting out this false media narrative. They are feeding these people. I do remember, sir, that when Sheikh Hasina was ousted, there was targeted killings of minorities, especially Hindus. And one of the newspapers, I think it was the New York Times, said, oh, these fellows are seeking revenge for the support that the Hindus gave to Sheikh Hasina. What arrant nonsense. They're attempting to justify what was happening there. The second stage will be international pressure. You know that the European Union, some others, the US Congress, several lawmakers have written to Mohammad Yusuf Khan saying that this is not on. Sheikh Hasina's party has been excluded from the elections. Therefore, there will be no question of a fair and free choice. She should be included. Otherwise, the international community will think these elections were absolutely rigged, as they keep saying for all the former Eastern Bloc countries. And they also say that this is the case with North Korea and Russia. The third level, sir, is what we call economic pressure, which we are now beginning to apply. It's not that you go stage by stage. You can do it concomitantly. You can do it simultaneously. And the final stage, sir, let me complete this, is the responsibility to protect, which is a 2005 UN decision, that if a country's nationals in its own territory or another one are being threatened and the world can't do anything about it, well, that country has the right to go in, as NATO and the US did, first with UN sanction as far as Gaddafi was concerned, and second time in Yugoslavia without UN sanction. And they were paying, they were very upset about what happened in Rwanda and Yugoslavia. So this is it. We haven't yet reached the responsibility to protect stage, but I dare say we will not hesitate to do so.
Right. So there is the escalation of the language, and we can see the internal pressure that's also coming in on the Modi government to take those strong steps, given the fact that you can see those visuals on your screen with protesters marching towards the Bangladesh High Commission over the atrocities against Hindus in the nation, given the fact that the Islamist mobs are running the streets of Bangladesh and the minorities are under siege. KP Fabian also joining us on the broadcast, former diplomat. Thank you, Mr. Fabian, for joining us. Your response response to the escalation of the language coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs? Is this just the first step towards a more sterner steps against the Yunus regime in Bangladesh? Right, we try to connect with KP Fabian over there. But Deepak Vora, I want to take that question to you. As we were discussing that this is a welcome move coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs to escalate that language against Bangladesh. Do you sense that given the fact that the Islamist mobs are running amok across the nation, this is also raising alarm in other parts of the world, especially in the West, given the fact that the terror threat could emerge from within the heart of Bangladesh?
You're so right. It's a very accurate assessment. And this buffoon, this Mohammed Yusuf Khan, by the way, I'm right now somewhere very close to the border with Bangladesh, in somewhere in eastern India. And what one can sense after talking to people on both sides is that this fellow has totally lost control. He toyed with extremist Islam, but not even extremist, with suicidal Islam, thinking that he would gain a lot of popularity and the jihadistanis on the other side of our border would support him, etc. But that is not happening. They are doing it because they want to, Pakistan is doing what it is doing in Bangladesh, not because it wants to teach us a lesson. It wants to teach the Bengalis a lesson.
Right.
Last time when they did it, sir, 1991, you are too young to remember. I'm 74 years old. I remember one of the Pakistani generals saying, and forgive me for the language, but I'm quoting him, "Main in haramzadon ki nasl badal dunga." I will change the DNA of these scoundrels. This is exactly the language that he used. And how do you do that? You get your men to play around with the women, 3 million women raped or whatever the figure was. Right. This time the Pakistanis say, well, these guys are willing to accept that we change their DNA and we will do it. Finally, this thing about Tariq Rahman, the son of Khalida Zia, coming in. Remember, sir, that all the charges against him and his mother were dropped by the Mohammed Yusuf Khan regime. So they've got a little deal in place, a very neat little deal, that we are not going to prosecute you for anything, we're not going to arrest you, but you then, on the other hand, help us to keep Sheikh Hasina away, support us when we say that the Awami League is not allowed to contest election. So it's a coalition of thieves. It's a conjury of thieves that we see here. Don't have too much hope on this character because he's also, he wants to ensure his own political survival. He's 60 years, he's young, if I may use the term. He knows. And he ran away to England, remember, sir, 2007 or 2008 when he was arrested along with his mother. And yes, his mother, Sheikh Hasina, everybody was arrested by the then interim government, headed, by a chief advisor. They beat the hell out of this guy. He was so badly hurt that he had to go to England for treatment, swearing that he would abjure politics. But of course, he broke his oath. Right. So that's where we are.
And clearly, everyone's an unstable political player when it comes to Bangladesh as well. Any deal can just fall flat. KP Fabian also joining us on the broadcast. Thank you, Mr. Fabian, for giving us your perspective, your first reaction. MEA drawing that red line with Bangladesh. A lot of internal pressure also coming in. But is the global narrative over Bangladesh also shifting?
Yes. In fact, MEA has done the right thing in making it clear to Bangladesh that there will be consequences if the government does not prevent, or should it fail to prevent, does not take prompt action against those who commit such atrocities as has happened. And it is certainly for the international community also to speak up, because no government can say that a particular Bangladeshi citizen was murdered because he was trying to extort money. How can it be? If the person, let's assume the statement about extortion is correct. If so, the person should have been arrested and produced before the court. How can the Bangladeshi police permit a mob to kill him? So obviously, Bangladeshi police has not been professional in its approach. And that applies to the Bangladesh government too.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Fabian, for giving us your perspective, as well as Ambassador Deepak Vora. So that strong statement coming in from the Ministry of External Affairs, as the mask seems to have completely cracked on the Islamic facade that has taken control of Bangladesh and leaving the unionist regime completely powerless as the political tussle also continues with the return of Khaleda Zia's son. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out given the volatile situation on the ground, but Delhi has drawn that red line with Bangladesh. We'll continue to track all the developments coming in. For now, quick break.